The desert was not silent. It whispered. Wind carried grains of sand like tiny knives, slicing at the flesh of the man crawling across the cracked earth. His uniform was torn to ribbons, one boot missing, the other hanging on by a thread. Blood mixed with dust on his forehead, trailing down his cheek in thin, rust-colored lines. Every breath he took was a small, deliberate act of defiance against the death that stalked him with every mile. He didn't know how long it had been since they left him. Time bled away in the sun. The sky offered no mercy, just an endless stretch of white-hot glare that boiled the ground and blurred the horizon into a wavering mirage. Somewhere behind him, his footprints vanished into the shifting dunes. But he didn't look back. Looking back was for men who had something left to lose. He used to have a name. It had once echoed through training camps, whispered with respect in briefing rooms. He had been the one they sent when things got ugly. And now, they had sent him here, to disappear. He heard a sound. Not real. Not anymore. His sister's laugh, sweet, high-pitched, like wind chimes swaying in the porch light of a distant childhood. She had died before he joined the army. Cancer. 8 years old. He was the one who held her hand until it went cold. Get up, she said now. Or maybe it was the wind. He pulled himself forward, hand over hand. Every movement scraped his body raw. The skin on his elbows was gone, just meat and blood against rock. His lips were split, swollen, his tongue swollen and dry. There was a crack in the earth ahead, barely a shadow, but it promised the illusion of shelter. He collapsed into it, head resting against sun-baked stone, and let his mind float. They had called it Operation Hollow Dagger. Just recon, they said. You're not going in hot. No firefights. No heroics. Just a quiet insertion, GPS mapping, exfil and 48. Standard. But he'd been on too many of these not to notice the signs. A new team. A briefing missing key details. Smiles that didn't reach eyes. When the bird dropped him at the edge of the Wadi al-Matir, the Valley of Silence, he'd felt it in his gut. This wasn't recon. This was something else. The gunfire had come quick, efficient. Not enemy. Friendly. His radio crackled, then hissed. He didn't even hear the shots that dropped him. Just the sharp heat in his side, then the dust as he hit the ground. A face leaned over him, Sergeant Klein. Nothing personal, Klein said. Just orders. He remembered that clearly. His hand tightened into a fist. The pain was useful. It meant he was still here. Something skittered nearby. A beetle, black and oily, crawling across his hand. He didn't flinch. He watched it climb his wrist and disappear into a crack in the rock. Even insects had a place in this wasteland. A place. That was the thing. They had taken his. He wasn't a man anymore. Not to them. Just an inconvenient record. An honorable soldier who'd seen too much, asked too many questions. He'd started asking why kids were being turned away at checkpoints, why entire villages were marked hostile without proof, why his team had started laughing during raids. He had written reports, and those reports had vanished. So they sent him here. His hand reached for the pouch still strapped to his belt. Empty. Water had run out 2 days ago, or maybe 3. The sun stole time. He had one thing left, a photo. Faded and worn from years of war. A girl with a lopsided smile. His daughter. She didn't know the details, just that Daddy had gone to keep people safe. He pressed the photo to his chest. The ache in his ribs was worse now, deep and cracking. Probably broken. Every breath scraped the inside of his chest like glass. He looked up. There, on the far ridge, movement. He blinked. Not hallucination. Real. A shape. A figure. Barefoot. Wrapped in loose cloth. Eyes hidden beneath a hood. A child? No. A girl. 9 or 10, maybe. She stood still, like part of the land. Watching. He tried to speak. Only a rasp came out. She turned and vanished behind the rocks. He didn't follow, couldn't. But for the first time in days, maybe longer, he felt something shift inside him. A flicker. Hope. He passed out. When he awoke, the light had softened. Dusk. Something wet touched his lips. Water. Real water. Cool, muddy, and life-saving. He drank like an animal, not caring where it came from. When he looked up, the girl was there again, kneeling. Her hand rested on his forehead. She said nothing, just handed him a pouch. Behind her, an older man emerged, sun-darkened skin, white beard like smoke. He wore silence like armor. The man nodded, then pointed toward a path carved into the canyon wall. He didn't understand the words the old man spoke, but he didn't need to. He was not dead. Not yet. As they lifted him, he felt shame burn hotter than the sun. They had left him with nothing. No name, no weapon, no mission. But now he had something again. A path. And the fire inside him was only beginning to grow. The fever came with the second nightfall. He shook beneath thin cloth, teeth clenched, eyes fluttering behind swollen lids. The old man, barefoot, silent, the smell of smoke and desert herbs clinging to him, sat beside the fire, grinding something dark in a worn stone bowl. The girl hovered nearby, her eyes large and unblinking in the firelight, clutching a bowl of water like it was sacred. He muttered nonsense. Words from another war, another lifetime. Coordinates. Names. A lullaby he hadn't heard since his mother whispered it to him during a storm. He jerked suddenly, crying out. The girl flinched. The old man didn't look up. Sweat drenched his chest. His body spasmed, reaching for a rifle that wasn't there. For a radio that no longer worked. For the men who had left him. Don't shoot, he rasped. The old man pressed a paste of herbs and crushed scorpion shell onto the wound at his ribs. The soldier screamed. The sound ripped through the canyon like an animal being gutted. The girl didn't run. She wiped the blood from his lips and held his wrist until he stilled. He awoke to dawn. The canyon was still, quiet except for the distant cry of a hawk. He blinked against the light. His vision cleared slowly. Stone walls, a fire smoldering to coals. The girl curled asleep beneath a faded wool blanket. The old man stood at the edge of the ledge, hands behind his back, staring into the horizon. You should be dead, the old man said in rough English, not turning. The soldier said nothing. The old man turned. His face was carved from sun and wind, deep lines etched like stories he didn't share. He stepped closer, crouched beside the soldier. I saw a man like you once. Years ago. Same eyes. Same blood on his hands. He paused. He died. Too proud to learn how to live. I'm not proud, the soldier whispered. No. The old man tapped his chest. Then why does this still burn? He couldn't answer. The old man stood, nodding toward the path behind them. Eat. Then walk. You can't fight until you remember how to stand. The days that followed blurred into heat and silence. They fed him goat's milk, flatbread, desert fruit that stung the tongue. The girl, still nameless, watched him with quiet intensity. She never asked questions, never smiled, but each time he stirred in pain, she was there. She brought wet cloth, water, simple comfort. The old man rarely spoke, but he watched. Every stumble the soldier made down the narrow path. Every wince as he stretched torn muscles. He offered no sympathy, only instruction. Where to place your foot on loose gravel. How to listen to the wind and know what it carried. Which cactus could be eaten. Which would kill. He never asked the soldier's name. It was the soldier who finally broke the silence. Why are you helping me? The old man didn't answer at first. He poked the fire with a stick, eyes narrowed. Years ago, a man in uniform brought death to my people, he said. He burned a village and called it a target. My wife and son were in that village. The soldier looked away. I couldn't stop him. I didn't have a weapon, but I remembered his face. Years later, I saw it again in a photograph. That man was praised for what he did, given medals. He turned toward the soldier now. I help you because you are not that man, but you carry the same fire. And fire can burn, or forge. The soldier's voice cracked. I tried to stop things. I spoke up, and they buried you for it. Silence stretched between them. That night, the girl finally spoke. Will you kill them? Her voice was soft, careful, like a child testing something dangerous. He looked at her. Really looked. Her eyes were far older than her years. The way she sat, legs drawn up, ready to run or fight, it wasn't natural. It was learned. I don't know, he said. She nodded. If you don't, they'll do it again. She rose and left him with that. Sleep came reluctantly, twisted with dreams. He walked through endless sand, each dune a memory. His old team, laughing beside a Humvee. Klein, handing him a canteen with a smirk. The commander's voice in the dark. Asterisk, we can't afford dead weight. Asterisk. He reached the top of a hill in the dream and looked down. There were no men. No base. Just fire. Everything burned. He woke before dawn, covered in sweat. By the fourth day, he could walk without help. The old man watched him pack the small pouch of supplies, dried meat, cactus salve, a water skin. You will go west, the old man said. You will find what you're looking for. The soldier nodded. The girl stepped forward, pressing something into his hand, a flat stone, smooth and warm from her pocket. A single word was scratched into it in careful letters, return. He looked at her, but she said nothing, just turned and walked back to the fire. He held the stone tight. Then he turned to the wind and began walking toward the sun. The man they left to die had become a shadow. He moved with the desert wind, silent, deliberate, unseen. By the time the first mercenary died, his name was already being whispered in fragments. A ghost, a curse, the one they buried, returned. The body was found at dawn, hanging upside down from a weather pole outside the mercenary checkpoint, eyes open, untouched by vultures. Around his neck, a scrap of bloodstained cloth. Written in it, a single word, remember. The message spread like wildfire. Patrols doubled. Radios buzzed with static and fear. No one knew where he was, only that he was watching. From the ridge, he watched them panic. He studied their patterns, their routes. There were 8 left from the unit that ambushed him. He mapped every movement. He listened to their voices crack over radios, heard them lie to each other about feeling safe. Klein was still alive, still in command, still running supply runs between the outpost and the inner base where the CO had buried the truth under concrete and signatures. He didn't act with rage. He acted with memory. The first strike came at night. They had stopped to refuel their convoy beside a dried-out riverbed. The 2 guards took turns smoking, rifles slung lazily over their shoulders. They never heard the whistle. Flashbang. Darkness. Screams. When it cleared, both guards were stripped and bound. Alive. A knife driven into the sand between them. One of their walkie-talkies played his voice on loop. Asterisk. I know what you did. Asterisk. He left them there. Mercenaries began deserting. 2 tried to flee through the southern pass. Only 1 returned, bloodied and wild-eyed, talking about traps that looked like nothing and eyes in the darkness. The soldier worked alone. No guns. No heavy weaponry. Just the land and the silence it gave him. He moved like he belonged there. In the months since they left him, his body had changed. Leaner. Harder. He no longer feared the sun or the night. Pain had become part of him, something he carried like a compass. It pointed him toward justice, not revenge. He didn't want them dead. Not all of them. He wanted them to answer. But Klein was different. Klein had pressed the barrel against his back. Klein had laughed when they kicked him into the dirt. Nothing personal, brother, he'd said. Just cleaning up loose ends. So he followed Klein. Waited. 3 days later, Klein's convoy stopped near a ravine to repair a tire. The soldier struck fast. Smoke bombs. Tires slashed. Chaos. Klein stumbled into the canyon with 2 guards. One fell into a snare, yanked screaming into the air. The other stepped on a pressure plate disguised beneath sand. Frozen. Then the voice came, low, clear, not angry. I could end it now, but that's too easy. Klein turned, weapon trembling. Out of the dark, the soldier emerged. No mask, no fear. The same eyes Klein had once looked into when he gave the order. You should be dead, Klein whispered. You said that already. The soldier disarmed him in seconds, held him down. But he didn't kill him. He tied him, gagged him, and whispered in his ear. Tonight, you'll walk into the base. Alone. And you'll tell your commander I'm coming. You'll tell him what you did. Or I will. Then he vanished again. The mercenaries crumbled from the inside. Paranoia turned them on each other. One shot a friend in the back, thinking he was the ghost. Radios went silent. The chain of command collapsed. What remained of Klein's team disappeared into the sands, like smoke chased by wind. And finally, only the outpost remained. The place where the commander hid behind concrete and lies. The soldier arrived at sunset. He didn't charge the gate. He didn't break down walls. He walked straight through the front checkpoint, using Klein's stolen ID and uniform. No one questioned him, not in the panic that had already swallowed the facility. He found the CO in the comms room, alone, drowning in static. The man turned and froze. Recognition flared. Then fear. You? The soldier said nothing. The commander went for his sidearm. Too slow. The soldier had him against the wall in a second, knife pressed to his neck. Not deep. Just enough to remind him he wasn't dreaming. I want your words, the soldier said. The truth. On camera. You're insane. No. You are. You thought justice was yours to bury. He turned on the camera. Forced the commander into the light. Name. Rank. Orders. Every word the commander had hoped to forget poured out beneath the threat of a blade and the weight of a guilty soul. He confessed to authorizing the hit, to falsifying reports, to using mercenaries to erase anyone who questioned the mission. The soldier didn't flinch. When it was done, he tied the commander to the radio tower, the video already uploading through an encrypted link to every outlet that would listen. He stood beneath the night sky, staring at the stars. Somewhere far behind him, a girl was watching the same sky, wondering if he would return. He turned, vanished into the dark once more. Tomorrow, the world would know. But tonight, he was a shadow again. The video shook the world before dawn. No title, no intro, just a trembling voice and a soldier's eyes. Haunted, hollow, honest. The disgraced commander sat hunched in a metal chair, sweat clinging to his collar, a gun just out of reach. He spoke names, coordinates, orders to kill one of their own. He confessed to covering it all up. The screen cut to black after 6 minutes. By the 7th, it had gone viral. News networks scrambled. The military issued statements filled with hesitation and half-truths. Official denial collided with undeniable evidence. Public outrage spread like wildfire. Protests, investigations, headlines that screamed betrayal. And beneath it all, a name reemerged. Not a name on paper, not one spoken aloud, but a symbol whispered in every comment section, every crowded room. The ghost who came back. No one knew where he was. He didn't speak. He didn't step forward to claim glory or vindication. He disappeared like dust in the wind. But some knew he was still watching. In a refugee camp at the edge of the desert, the girl waited. She stood beside crates of medical supplies flown in by a humanitarian group, her hands stained with desert clay and ointment. The old man watched from a bench nearby, his legs stretched out toward the sun, a rare smile on his face. A journalist approached the girl with a photograph, grainy, taken from a drone. A figure walking alone across a ridge. The same silhouette that had haunted the mercenary reports. Do you know this man? The reporter asked. The girl looked at the image, said nothing. Instead, she pulled a stone from her pocket, the one she'd given him. Return, it still read. The edges were smoother now, worn from being held. She placed it in the reporter's hand and walked away. Elsewhere, the mercenaries who survived were arrested or vanished. Klein was found in a border town bar, drunk and muttering about dead men walking. The military took him without a word. The commander was dishonorably discharged within weeks, stripped of his rank and pension, left with the echo of his own cowardice. The truth couldn't be buried again. In time, The soldier's story became legend. He had no official grave, no commendation ceremony. But people painted murals in cities he'd never visited, of a man walking into the wind, faceless, fierce, alive. Songs were written. Stories were told. Parents named their sons after the myth that justice could still rise from betrayal. But the man himself never returned. Not to the base. Not to the uniform. Not to the world that betrayed him. He followed the edge of maps, living between borders and memory. Once, a convoy of relief workers crossing the Wadi al-Matir found their trucks sabotaged, tires blown, gas leaking. Bandits had circled. The workers had locked themselves inside, radioing for help that wouldn't come in time. At sunrise, they found the bandits tied and stripped, laid out in rows like dominoes. A note was pinned to the nearest cactus. Asterisk, keep walking. You're not alone. Asterisk. No one saw who left it. Weeks later, a mother searching for her lost son in the mountain villages of the south claimed she was saved by a man with a scar across his temple and eyes like storm clouds. He didn't speak, just carried the boy down the cliffs, set him beside her, and vanished before she could thank him. Rumors began to blend into myths. But those who had truly seen him knew better. He wasn't a ghost. He was a man who had been broken, left with nothing, and still chose to protect. He carried scars like armor now. His soul bore the burn of betrayal, but his hands still built fires for strangers. He kept moving, not because he was running, but because he understood something most didn't. Survival wasn't the end. It was the beginning. One night, months later, a package arrived at a small house tucked beneath olive trees near the coast. A woman opened it, hands trembling. Inside, a photo, faded but intact, of a little girl with a crooked smile. Her daughter. And a letter. No signature. Just 5 words. She made me keep going. The woman cried for hours. In the hills beyond, a figure watched the stars. He no longer needed to speak. The world knew his message. Don't wait to be sent to die to find out who you are. And in the silence of that desert night, he became something more than a soldier, more than a myth. He became a reminder. That fire doesn't only destroy, it also forges. And somewhere, far away, a new path opened in the sand.